Good morning, guys. In the last session, we discussed about what is the Spring security, why we need to go for Spring security, and what is authentication and what is authorization. Okay, authentication and authorization. Spring security is a module in the Spring framework which is highly customizable to secure our Spring-based applications. By using this Spring security, we can perform both authentication and authorization. Authentication will represent who can access our application. Authorization will represent what they can access in our application. Then, when we add Spring Security Starter for our application, by default, we are going to get HTTP basic authentication. One default username, one default password will be provided in order to secure our application. We can override default credentials. How to override default credentials for authentication? If you don't override the credentials, default username will be user, password will be printed on the console. If you don't like that username and password, you can override them by using properties file or YML file. The next one, we have seen what is in-memory authentication. So if you want to configure more than one user in the project, then you can go for in-memory authentication details. In-memory authentication means it is hard-coded information. We are hard-coding which user can access our application. But in the real time, hard coding is not recommended. We need to verify the credentials available in the database table. For that, we have configured JDBC authentication. That means our application will use data JDBC to retrieve the records from the database table by using the given queries. Okay. So JDBC authentication also we can use to secure our application. But the most recommended approach is user details service. Okay. So instead of we are writing our own query to retrieve the record for the authentication purpose, we can customize authentication provider by configuring our database data. For that, we need to implement user details service by using password encoder. Authentication manager, authentication provider, we are customizing. Then we can perform the login check by using authentication manager authenticate method. So by using this user details service also, we can implement that authentication concept. Then we have done one project, login and registration using Spring Security. So we are able to, we developed one REST API. In that REST API, we have registration functionality and a login functionality. When user send a post request with JSON data, user password will be encrypted by using bcrypt algorithm, and we are storing that data into database table. And when user try to log in, we are using authentication manager to perform the authentication of the user. So that is our login and registration using Spring Security. Then next one, we have seen OAuth 2.0 integration with the GitHub. OAuth authentication with a GitHub. So my REST API is secured by using OAuth. So what is the meaning that my REST API is secured with the OAuth? If you want to access my REST API, you no need to create the account in my application. So if you have account in the GitHub, using that GitHub account, you can access my application. We have seen several websites in the market like a HackerRank, Nika. So many websites are there. If you want to access them, there are two options available. You can directly create the account and you can access them. If you don't want to create the account directly, By using your social media account, you can access those applications. HackerRank website is there. You can create your account by giving your name, email ID, and phone number. Okay, but I'm not interested to create my account. I'm not interested to share my data with them. So that's why I will use my Google account or GitHub account or LinkedIn account or Facebook account in order to access that application. Same concept is available in our Ashok IT website also. If you want to access, instead of creating the account, there is an option called sign in with Google option is available. If you already have the account in the Google, using that Google account, you can log in into our application also. Good. The next one, the next security technique that we need to learn, that is JWT, which is very famous security technique nowadays to secure our microservices based applications. Okay, let's talk about what is the JWT and why we need to go for this JWT. There is an official website available to understand JWT. Let's go to that website, JWT. So the first thing that we need to understand, JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens are open industry standard method representing the claims securely between two parties. So when two applications want to communicate securely, then we are going to use this JWT for that security of application. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. Now, how this JWT is going to work? How this JWT is going to work? So here for the JWT, let me show you this. Now, I am having one client application, okay, and I am having one resource application. Resource application, nothing but it is our provider application, and this is our client application. One provider application is available, one client application is available. Now, this client application should access the provider application. Provider application should send the response to the client application. This is how distributed applications are going to communicate. Now here, my provider is a secured provider. Everybody should not be able to access my provider. I want to secure my provider. So that security we can implement in multiple ways, like you can go for HTTP basic auth, in-memory authentication, JDBC authentication, user details service, or OAuth. Multiple ways are available. Now, I want to secure my provider by using JWT. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. Now, inside this provider, there are multiple methods available. For example, balance method, deposit method, and withdraw method. Deposit method, withdraw method, balance checking method. Okay, there are three URL patterns available. One is used to check the balance of our account. Second one is used for depositing the amount in our account. Third one is used to withdraw the amount from our account. So three URL patterns available. These three URL patterns are secured URL patterns. I want to secure them by using JWT. So what will happen is, first in our application, I'm going to write one method called authenticate method. I will write one more method called authenticate method. Now, any client who want to access my application, that client should send a request to authenticate method with their username and password. Okay, any client who want to access my application, first they need to send the request to first URL pattern which is called authenticate URL pattern. Okay, authenticate URL pattern is kind of a login. Authenticate URL pattern is kind of a login. Now, or else I can show you like this as well. I will write one URL pattern which is called /register. Another one is called /login. /register and /login URL patterns are available. So in my application, there are 5 methods available. In my application, there are 5 methods available. Those 5 methods are divided into 2 parts. One is unsecured methods. Second one is secured methods. Unsecured methods are register and login. Secured methods balance, deposit, and withdraw. Okay. Now, first user will send a request for register. User will send a request for the register. What we do in the register? User record will be saved into database with his email ID, password will be available. That data will be available in the database table. That user data will be maintained in the database table. That is one process. That register functionality anybody can access. That is not a secured URL. Any user can register in our account. Already in the last session, we implemented user registration functionality. Once user is registered, his data will be available in the database table. Then user will send another request called login request. User will send another request called login request with his username and password. Okay. So user is trying to log in into our application by using username and password. This login method also will communicate with the database to verify user credentials are valid or not. It is going to be authentication manager concept is there. Using that authentication manager concept, we are going to verify that user credentials are valid or not. If user credentials are valid, then in our application, there will be one more class will be available. That class is called JWT utils class will be available. Inside the provider, there will be a class called JWT utils class will be available. Using this JWT utils class, if the credentials are valid, my login method will communicate with the JWT utils class. That JWT utils class will generate one token. JWT utils class will generate one token. That token we will send as a response to the client. The token we are going to send as a response to the client. So if user is authenticated successfully, then user will get one token. If user is authenticated successfully, user will get one token. The token that we are sending is called as a JSON web token. That is called JSON web token. Now, if a user want to access any of these secured methods, user should send a request along with the token. User should send a request along with the token. If the token is valid, then only user request will be processed. Otherwise, user request will not be processed. Are you able to follow me? So observe. So total there are 5 methods available in our application. Register method available, login method is available. So register method is used to save the user data into database table. Once user registration completed, then that user will go for login functionality, authentication functionality. So what we have done in the last project, before OAuth, we developed user registration login, same process. Registration will be available to insert the user data in the table. Login will be available to verify user credentials are valid or not. Last time, when user credentials are valid, what we have done? Directly we give the success response. This time, if user login is successful, we are going to send one JWT token that is called JSON Web Token. When we generate the JWT token, in that token, user information also will be stored. For which user this token got generated. So to generate that token, we are going to use one more class called JWT. Utils class will be available. Inside this class, we will write the methods called generate token, create token. We will write a methods called create token, and the next one is validate token. So when first request comes, then token will be generated, token will be given to the client. When a client want to access secured URL pattern in our application, client should send the token also in the request. That token is called as a bearer JSON token. Earlier it is called basic authentication. Now we are going for bearer token. So if that token is valid, then only user request will be processed. Otherwise, user request will not be processed. So securing REST API methods using token. That is the trending security technique in the market. So if you want to access one method, first you need to authenticate yourself and you need to get the token from the provider. And next you need to send the request along with the token. That token that you are sending in the request will be validated. If the token is valid, then only your request will be processed. Otherwise, your request will not be processed. Are you able to follow this? Now, request validation is only for one method or for three methods? Three methods. So that's why in order to validate the request in our application, we will create one filter. What logic will be available in the filter? Filter will check token is valid or not. If token is valid, then only request will be processed. If the token is invalid, then request will not be processed. Are you able to follow this? Now, sir, what is that token? How that token looks like? See here, JWT. You understand functionality wise what is happening? Functionality wise how JWT will be implemented? First, user record should be created. Then user is going to log in. If a login is successful, what is the response? If login is successful, what is the response? Token is the response. User first will register, then user will go for login. If login is successful, then user will get a token. So user should send the next request along with the token. And that token that we are creating will have some expiry date also. That token will be valid for next 5 minutes or next 10 minutes or next 24 hours. Like that you can set expiry time for the token also. Okay. So you first log in, then your authentication will happen. If your authentication is successful, then you will get the token back. If your authentication is successful, then you will get the token back. Then you send the next request along with the token. If your token is valid, then your request will be processed. Otherwise, your request will not be processed. So here, two things extra we are going to add in the project that we have implemented. Security register login project is there. Already user record we are storing in the database. So if you see, so save user is available. User record is inserting in the database. Login is also available. In the login, we are authenticating the user. Okay. If authentication is successful, what is the response I'm sending? Welcome to Ashok IT. Your status is 200. But now, instead of sending this success message, I will write the logic to generate the token and send the token to the client. Then client will send next request along with the token. Then I need to validate the token. So is the token given by us or not? Is that a token is expired or not expired? We are going to validate. If the token is valid, then user request will be processed. Otherwise, user request will not be processed. To generate the token, to validate the token, we will have a separate class called JWT utils class will be available. Right. Now, when the request comes, we need to verify the request is coming for which method. If the request is coming for these two methods, no need to verify the token. No need to ask for the token because those are public methods. When the token is required in the request, when we need the token, token is required when user want to access secured methods. Token is required when user want to access secured method. So now, do you think that we will write the logic to validate the token in every method which is available in the application? No. In my application, if there are 20 methods available, can we write the logic at 20 places to validate the token? No. So we need to write the logic to validate the token at only one place. Before the request is going to our controller method, REST controller method, we need to validate the token. For that we are going to use one filter. What that filter is going to do? What is the responsibility of the filter? That a filter is going to execute before processing the request. Before our request is going to the REST controller method, my filter will be executed. Inside the filter, we will write the logic to validate the token. Are you guys clear? So this is JWT based security. JWT stands for JSON Web Token. So client will send a request with the username and password. If a client username password is valid, application will generate a token, will give the token to the client. Now client will send the next request along with the token. If the token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Look at that flow. Yeah. Now see how that token looks like. Okay. Now JWT token will be available like this. Whatever the token that we are going to generate, that JWT token will be available like this. Here, if you see in the token, there are three parts available. If you see in the JWT token, there are three parts available, three colors available. Three colors, nothing but three parts. So these are three parts separated by dot here. So this is one part in the token. This is second part in the token, and this is third part in the token. So a JWT token looks like this. That JWT token is available in three parts. Those three parts are separated by using dot symbol. So in this, if you decode, this is the encoded JWT token. If you decode that JWT token, the three parts looks like this. The first part of the token is called as a header. The first part of the token is called as a header. Then second part of the token is called as a payload. Third part of the token is called signature. So JWT token is the combination of header, payload, and signature. So first part is called header in the token, then dot is available, then we have second part, then again dot is available, then third part is available. Inside the header of the token, what is the algorithm, what type of the token we are creating. Header information, header nothing but metadata. Header nothing but metadata will be available. Type of the algorithm, type of the token, that information is available in the header, which is encoded. So here, this is our encoded token, this is our decoded token. Encoded token is available, decoded token is available. Encoded token contains three parts here. Every part is separated by using one dot. So first a header part contains algorithm and type of the token. Payload contains what is the subject, what is the name, for which user this token is generated, what is the ID. The timestamp will be available when that token got generated here. Okay. Signature. So secret based signature, that means header part, comma, payload part and your secret will be available. Everything will be combined in the signature. Header part, payload part, signature part will be available. Inside the signature, one secret text will be added and the signature will be generated. By combining header, payload, signature, a token will be generated like this. A token will be generated like this. Okay. So now in our application, multiple URLs will be available. For few URLs, security is required. For the few URLs, security not required. If you see this example, register and login functionality available. For them, security is not required. Any user can register, any user can log in. When the user is login successfully, token will be generated, token will be given to the client. Once a client received the token, client will save the token, client will send the next request along with the token. If the next request is coming along with the token, then that request will be validated. Is the token is valid or not? If a token is valid, then only request will be processed. Otherwise, request will not be processed. Are you able to follow this? Any confusion? Any confusion here? No confusion. Very good. Now, so how many parts will be available in the JWT, guys? What is the meaning of JWT? JSON Web Token. Spring Boot with JWT. So JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. These JSON Web Tokens are open industry standard for representing security between two parties. Two parties, nothing but two applications. This is official website of JWT token, and below is the sample token of the JWT. Three parts will be available in the token. First part contains header, second part contains payload, third part contains signature. So these three parts will be separated by using one dot. Okay. So here I have given some code in order to implement JWT using our Spring Boot application. So here, whatever the JWT token I have given using Spring Boot security, so this is implemented by using old approach. So if you see in the old approach, what we are doing, extending from the adapter class, that is 2.x version of the Spring, that is outdated mechanism. So in the latest version of the Spring Boot, you no need to extend the properties from any class. You no need to extend the properties from any class. Directly you can use it. So this code is not required now. This code is prepared with the old technique. We are going to change this logic. We are going to change this logic. Before that, before going to develop the project, first let's test one existing application to get the clarity. Okay, we will do the coding part for the JWT. Before I'm going to do for going for the coding, I want to show you the execution flow. JWT is available. Spring Boot JWT app is there. Okay. 2 months back, I have pushed one application to GitHub repository, that is JWT application. First, I will run my existing JWT application. Then we will create our own application also with the JWT. Take this code, copy this one. Let me clone this Git repository. Git bash, git clone. I'm giving my repository URL. Yeah, the cloning is successful. JWT application. Just for demo purpose, I'm using this. Yeah, all right. So application is available in my local. Let me take this application and import this application into our IDE file. Import this project. It is a Maven project. Import existing Maven project. All right. Importing is available. So you see there are so many classes available. Forget about them. Let's go for home controller. So here there is a method available. I method is available. Okay. So this is my secured REST API method. This method we have secured by using JWT. How we secured by using JWT? So here my JWT security configuration is available. In that security configuration, I'm specifying here any request comes to the high should be authenticated by using JWT security. Any request comes for the login, you permit that request. But here, so in this security configuration, I'm telling that high should be allowed. High should not be allowed without the token. Login should be allowed. And coming to my configuration, user details I have configured. User details I have configured. Username is this one. Password encoder dot encode this password. Ashok@gmail.com is my username and my password is Ashok, which I am encoding by using password encoder, and the role available as a admin. Authentication manager, password encoder is available, user detail service available. What kind of user details I'm using? What kind of user details I'm using? In memory user details I'm using, but in the real time database related user details will be available just for test purpose, just for testing purpose, authentication purpose. This is my username and this is my password. Okay, then go to authentication controller. Inside the authentication controller, login URL is available. What this login is going to do? It is going to verify user is valid or not. Okay, if a user is valid, then it will generate one token and it will send token as a response to the client. Okay, here authentication is available to generate the token. So once the token is available, we will send the token to the client. When the client is sending the token, here we have a filter. This filter is going to verify that user token is valid or not. Whatever the token that user is sending, the token is valid or not, we are going to validate the token. If the token is valid, then only this method will be executed. Otherwise, this method will not be executed. That is, the basic configuration is available. So what is there in this current project is here I am having one REST API provider. Inside this REST API provider, there is one login method is available. So for this user, I have given the username as ashok@gmail. I have hard coded this user data and password I have given like this. Okay. So when client is sending a request to the login method, so here our client application will be available. This is our provider and this is our client. Client will send a request to the login with a username and password or email ID and password for the login purpose. So now, if the login is invalid, no need to do anything. If the credentials are invalid, no need to do anything. If credentials are valid, then what our application is doing? Our application generating one token and sending the token to the client. And here there is another URL is available which is called hi URL. Now, if a client want to access this URL, client should send a JWT token also in the request. If a client is sending JWT token, that token will be validated. If the token is valid, then only the response will come to the client. Then only response will come to the client. So here we have some classes in our provider. There is one class called JWT util class is available. What is the purpose of that? JWT util: generate the token, validate the token. Then here there is one filter also available, for which request token should be validated, for which request token should not be validated. That configuration we have done in the filter. So two extra classes available, one is JWT utils class available, another one is filter class is also available. So let me send the authentication request for this application now. Authentication controller, login is the URL pattern. It is expecting email ID and password in the request. What user details I have configured here? The user details I have configured as ashok@gmail.com and Ashok. If you don't want this one, you can load from the database also by implementing user details service interface. We will load it from the database in our coding. Currently here it is hard coded value. Okay, let me run this application, close all the other projects, close unrelated projects, refresh, run as boot application. Run as boot application. Port number should be changed. Properties file, server.port. Okay. 9090. Maven, update the project. Update the project. Now, refresh. Run as boot application. Now, our application is started. In this application, we are using 9090 port number. Okay. So in this application, there are two methods available. One is a login method. Another one is hi method. Login method is a post request method, which is used to verify the credentials of the user. If credentials are valid, token will be generated. Token will come to the client. Next, hi method is a get request method, which is secured by using JWT. Let's go to Postman now. Today we are not doing any coding, just we are understanding what is JWT, how it is working in our REST API. Tomorrow we will develop a project on our own by writing the logic for creating the token and validating the token. So let me clear all these things, delete all of them. let us go for get request localhost colon 9090. Let me send you a request for the hi method directly. Hi is a normal method or it is a secured method, guys? It is a secured method. Click on send the request. Now, what is the response we are getting? Access denied. Full authentication is required to access. So when you send a request for the hi, when you send the request for the hi, it is saying access denied. Full authentication is required to access. If you see in the authentication, am I sending any authentication now? Am I sending any authentication? No, I'm not sending any authentication. That's why I'm not able to access that hi method. I'm not able to access hi method. Now, let us go and access login method. Okay. What is the URL pattern for the login method? Go to the authentication controller. Yeah. Class level URL pattern is available and method level URL pattern is also available. It is expecting request body data. What data expecting in the request body? Email and password. Okay. So here /auth/login. Go to body. I need to send the email ID and password. Email and password. Okay. If I send some wrong data, already in my application, I configured one user. Okay. So if that user data you are sending correctly, then only authentication will be success. Actually, in my application, the user which is configured is Ashok. But I'm trying to log in by using John credentials. Click on send. Now, what it is saying? What it is saying, guys? It is saying credentials invalid. That means authentication is failed. That means authentication is failed. So let me give valid credentials now. My email ID and my password. This is the user data. This is the user data which I have configured in our application. Now click on send. When I send the request with the valid data, what is the response I got, guys? A token for the given username. So I am sending a post request for the login method along with my email ID and password in the request body. That data is validated. That's why the authentication got successful and I got my token as a response. I got the token. If the login is successful, I'm getting the token as a response. What token we are getting? JWT token. That will be available in the 3 parts. Take this response. You see the response here. Now, this is the token I got. Part 1. Okay. And part 2 and part 3. So can you see all the 3 parts available in the token? So this is our first part in the token. And this is our second part in the token. And this is last part in the token. This is token generated for this user. Authentication is successful. That's why token is generated. Now, so in this token, 3 parts. Header part will be available. Payload part will be available. Signature part will be available. Okay. Now, once we have the token, let us copy that token. Let us copy that token and let us send this token to access secured method. Copy the token, then go to get request. In the get request, am I sending any token now? For the hi method, am I sending any token? Send it. What is happened? Access denied. Without token, we are not able to access that method. So here, the token that we are getting is called as a bearer token. Basic authentication will be available. Bearer token will be available. The token that we got is a bearer token. Paste the token here. Whatever the token we are getting, paste the token as a bearer token and click on send. When I click on send now, what is happening? am I able to access my secured REST API? So earlier the request is denied because we did not send any token in the request. Now when I send a token in the request, I'm able to access my secured REST API. Suppose if I remove this token, if I send the request, again it is saying access denied. So keep the token and send the request. Now we are able to get the response from the REST API. So can I say my REST API method is secured by using JWT? My REST API method is secured by using JWT. So there are two methods available. One is normal method for authentication. People will try to authenticate themselves. That's like a login functionality. People try to log in into our application. If a login is successful, token is coming. With the token, we need to send the next request. If the token is valid, then your request will be processed. If token is invalid, your request will not. Now see here, I'm sending some token, right? If token is not available, request is denied. For example, I'm sending the token, but in the token, I will change some text in the token. I'm removing some text in the token. Okay. If I remove some text in the token, is it accepting that? So that means it is checking token is available or not in the header. If the token is available, is it valid or not also it is checking. So it's not like instead of token, sir, I will send some dummy data like ABC as a token data. Is it a valid token data? No. Click on send. Then is it processing the request? Not processing the request. Not processing the request. If you send valid token, then only your request is getting processed. Okay. So I hope theoretically you are clear what is JWT, how it will be used to secure our REST APIs. The coding part is pending. How to develop this REST API with the JWT token, that is pending part. So theoretically, I hope you got the clarity. JWT stands for JSON Web Tokens. It is open standard to secure applications, especially in the microservices. We are going to use this JWT security technique. This JWT token is divided into three parts. First part is called header part. Second part is called payload. Third part is called signature. Okay. Now, so in order to access secured JWT secured REST API, first you need to send your email ID and password for authentication. If your credentials are valid, application will send the token as a response to you. You take the token, you hold that token into some variable, then you send a next request along with the token in the header. The token that we are sending is called as a bearer token. Okay. So once you send the bearer token, application will verify token is coming in the request or not, and that too it is valid or not. If a token not available, or if you are sending invalid token, your request will be denied by our application. Okay. Now in the microservices, do you think that this is JWT token logic we will write in every microservice? In my project, there are 50 microservices available. Are we going to implement JWT in all the 50 microservices? No. Only at one place we are going to implement the security. That security will be applicable for all the microservices available in our application. Okay, I will show you the microservices architecture with the JWT token. Are you guys clear with my point? Good. Forget about the code, guys. Whatever the code is available, this is outdated code. We no need to write this much logic. We no need to write this much logic now. I will simplify this logic and I will explain in the tomorrow session how to implement JWT coding in our REST API. Today intention just to understand what is this, how it is working, and how to use it. That's it. Yeah. Anybody having any questions? So first, look at this method now. Client application and provider application. Login hi is available. Login method is mapped to post request. It will take your email ID and password. If your credentials are valid, token you will get as a response. You send the token to the next request in the header as a bearer token. Token will be validated. If it is valid, your request will be processed. Otherwise, your request will be denied. Good. So this token generation, token validation should not be available in every REST API in the project. At one common place, we are going to write the logic to generate the token and to validate the token. That will be applicable for all the microservices available in the project. Yeah. Any questions, anybody?
Hello, sir.
Authorization is implemented in JWT, sir.
1 minute, sir. Yeah, sorry.
How authorization is implemented?
Online students, give me 1 minute.
Okay.
If token is expired, you need to get the new token again. Token can expire. Suppose whenever we are generating the token, we can set that. Whenever we are generating the token, we can set that. What is the time limit for this token? For example, I am giving as 30 seconds. Then after 30 seconds, if you send the request with the token, there is no use. So here token expiry time, we can set it. If the token is expired, client request will be denied. Client should get one more token, a new token to send the next request. Yeah. Any other question for offline people? Any other question, anybody?
Yeah, hi sir, Naresh here.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, when we send a request with the email ID and password from client, so it will check in the database first whether the credentials are valid or not. If it is valid, then it will call JWT utils class, right?
Correct.
If it is not, if the credentials are wrong, it won't even call the JWT utils. It will directly send the response that bad credentials or something like that.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the information.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
For every request, token is generated, or it generates only once when we log in?
For one user, one token will create. User can reuse the same token for multiple requests.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, hi sir.
Hello, sir.
Yep.
What is the advantage of this token, sir?
Sir, when we have multiple microservices, right? So by using one token, we will send that this user can access our application for particular amount of time. So the expiry time we are going to set for the token. They can't use the same token for 1 day, complete 1 day. They can't use the same token to access our application. So more advanced security technique we can achieve by using this token. Instead of asking the user to send the username and password for every request, we will ask them one time, then we will give a token for them. From next time, he will send the token.
Sir, any real-time applications?
Yeah, we will do that. So today just theory session, right?
No, sir. In the real time, any application is using this JWT token?
Yes, sir. In the real time nowadays, every microservice is using JWT. We will develop one microservice application with JWT.
Give me one example, sir. Application name, real time.
Amazon, all famous applications are using JWT tokens only, man.
But we are directly login, right? We don't get any tokens.
Sir, you are an end user, sir. You can't see the tokens. That will be taken care by UI application, right? Okay. You will log in the UI. UI application will access your backend microservice. That microservice will send the token to the UI. UI application will send the token in every request that you are sending. Okay. As an end user, you can't see that one. As a developer, we will see that.
Sir, while /login, instead of email and password, can we go for OAuth 2.0?
You can do that also, normal login. So if you want to do that OAuth also, you can do it, or else you can do it the normal token also. Generally, For login purpose, we are going to use authentication manager. We will validate. OAuth is required only when you want to allow the user to access third-party application.
Okay.
Sir, as you mentioned, multiple, we can use the same token for multiple services.
Yep.
If suppose in Make My Trip, hotels is we are accessing, that is different API.
Correct.
And trains is different API. In that case, different tokens will be used, right? Or same token can be used.
Same the time period. If the token is not expired, you can use the same token. If the token is not expired, you can use the same token.
Okay. Sir, can you please explain tomorrow's class with a real-time one? Currently, which application is using that? We are not able to sync this thing with the real time.
Sir, I have not explained anything related to real time. Today is just theory part. What is JWT? What is the structure? How it will work? Okay. Tomorrow we will develop one project and we will see that practically. Got my point?
In the previous diagram, we discussed about filter.
Yep.
Yeah. So can you
here
please...
also filter will be there. In this current application also filter is available. I'm not talking anything about the coding. Here also filter is available. Filter is used to verify token is valid or not. So filter will decide whether to process the next request or not. When whatever the request user is sending for the AI high, right? Here also one filter is available to validate the token is valid or not. If it is valid, then only this method will be executed. Otherwise, this method will not be executed. Filter is going to take care of the validation part.
Sir, suppose the user logged out this application, again log in, then brand new token will be created, right?
Sir, when user log out, we are going to remove that user token, right?
Yes. Then brand again, if user log in, then brand new.
Then new token will be generated.
Yeah, correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Every user we can maintain the one token, sir.
Sir, whenever you are developing application, token you can maintain into a variable if it is a backend application. If it is a front-end application, local storage will be available to maintain the tokens. In the Angular application, you can maintain the token by using a local storage, like a session concept will be there in the Angular. In the Java backend, we can store that into a variable, or you can store your token into database also at your site. Client can maintain the token into a variable, or client can store the token into a database also.
Sir, token will be generated post validation of user ID and password.
Correct.
Then what we need for the filter method?
Filter is used to verify token is coming in the request or not. Is it a valid token or not? That logic will be there in the filter.
Sir, what is the difference between bearer token and JWT bearer?
Yeah, both are same, sir. JWT tokens are called bearer tokens.
No, in the Postman in auth section, there are the two types.
So JWT token means here it is asking separately you need to send what is the algorithm, what is your secret, and what is your payload. If you want to send the things separately, then you can specify as a JWT bearer. If you want to send the combined token, you can use a bearer token concept. If you want to send everything separately, what is your secret, what is your payload, then you can go for that one. Header, prefix, all the things separately if you want to send. 3 sections if you want to send separately, select this JWT bearer. If you want to send a combined, then go for bearer token. Everything you can keep at one place.
Okay, sir. That makes any difference?
No, no difference.
Sir, how we will implement authorization in case of JWT?
Sir, authorization means that is there is nothing related to authorization in the JWT. Authorization that you want to implement in the security configuration only you are going to write which method you are going to allow, which method you don't want to allow. So if you go for security configuration, here this method I am allowing, this method I am not allowing, right? Here only you can specify for which role user can access this method, which role user cannot access this method, that you will configure in the filter chain itself. In the JWT, there is nothing related to authentication or author. It will be just a token. Here in the security filter chain, you can customize the logic, which URL should be available for which user with which role. That you need to take care of that logic here.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
For this batch, you doing code on Spring 3.x.
Correct.
Then industry use 2.x or 3.x.
Some projects are 2.x, some projects are 3.x. Always people ask to teach new version. That's why I'm using 3.x.
Then how to write a code on 2.x
Same
security?
thing, sir. Same configuration, same thing. The only one extra change will be there. That is, we are going to extend the properties from adapter class in the 2.x. In the 3.x, we don't extend the properties from the adapter.
Dependency will same?
No,
or
yeah,
different?
dependencies are same. Nothing difference in the dependency. Only some classes are deprecated in the 3.x version.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Sir, how can we use Swagger with secure service? Because when we hit that particular URL,
You
then
need to allow that URL, sir. Here, login URL, you are able to access, right? You are configuring that no authentication required for the login URL. So if you see in our security filter chain configuration, here we are configuring permit this request. Okay. Similarly, you can configure like this also /swagger-ui.html. Then Swagger documentation, it will allow directly. You no need to add any security for that. So as we discussed previously also, for some URLs, security is not required in the project. Those URLs we can permit directly like this.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Swagger still makes call to these endpoints, right? Like /hi or this. So in that case, how do we configure that JWT in Swagger?
Sorry, can you come again?
Swagger will still make the call to these endpoints, right? Even though the Swagger UI HTML is enabled.
Even the Swagger, if you are only opening the Swagger URL, when you hit that endpoint from the Swagger, that will go to the filter and it will stop your request, right? Will not directly, Swagger will not access your request directly. Security will be applied there also.
Okay, and can we like configure JWT inside Swagger or use?
Tomorrow in application, in the JWT application we are going to develop, I will add the Swagger also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good guys, fine. So today we discussed theoretically what is the JWT. Tomorrow we are going to implement the JWT practically. Before coming to tomorrow's session, let's do some research on the JWT implementation. Before I'm going to explain, you try to do that implementation on your own. If it is success, excellent. Otherwise, tomorrow you will see what mistake you have done in your project. Tomorrow I'm going to do the coding for JWT tokens. Good. Thank you guys. See you tomorrow.